Hi there, we've just got back from our first trip of the season and tidied up Molly, ready to go home sadly, but I thought I'd take a moment just to give you a quick guided tour of the boat and particularly of some of the little modifications that I've made. So let's have a look. Molly on her berth. This winter we changed the UV strips on the sails, a job which Nikki did herself, and that seems to have worked really well. Also up the mast, lots of work has gone on to fit a new deck light, new nav light, a new VHF antenna and a wind instrument. I fitted a permanent solar panel on the deck to keep the batteries topped up whilst we're away, and I've got a much larger panel which I use when we're on board and not travelling, so that we can keep the batteries charged, and that seems to be working really well. Let's step aboard. Let's go up to the bow. A few small things. So the bowsprit was getting slightly damaged from rubbing against the forestay when the bowsprit is up, so I've fitted this leather to that which protects it, and it also makes quite a lot of noise, the bowsprit, waggling about when it's up. So by tethering it like this with this bungee, it keeps it all nice and tidy. You can see lovely new UV strips, lovely jubbly. Inside here I've got the anchor locker. I didn't get on with the original anchor that came with Molly, so in here we've got a lovely Vulcan anchor, which is a 9 kilo model and fits lovely into the locker, along with 35 meters of chain and some road. I've stuck with bulge-in connectors for the lights. Although they have been slightly problematic, they seem to be the best way if we have to remove the mast periodically, but they're well and truly sealed up with some mastic there to keep the water out. Coming aft into the cockpit, you can see this was the original connector for the ST2000 tiller pilot that came with the boat. I've left that working so I can use that tiller as a backup if I need to, but this is the new connection that I've recently fitted for the EV100 tiller pilot system, which is working really well for us. These are the connectors for the solar panel. I've kept the wires separate, and that goes to an MPPT charge controller inside the inside the electrical locker. I've fitted a Axiom 9 Plus plotter. I changed the radio so that I could have a remote mic in the cockpit to use. The cockpit lockers on the Cornish Crabber are enormous. You get loads in here. So this is what I refer to as the dry locker, the port hand locker. There are two panels which are currently removed, concealing the electrical equipment, and into this space I can get the tender and the electric outboard and the fowlies and the solar panel and the washboards usually. So that's quite a useful big space there. This is the port locker with the panels off, so the panels come down here normally. Just a few things that I've added. Most of it's original, but this is my solar charge controller. I've got two panels coming in which are twinned up, one that's fixed on the deck and one that's I fit when I'm not moving. And this is my Bluetooth battery monitor. It's a NASA unit. I've recently had to replace my battery charger, so I've bought one of these, which in the future would be able to cope with a lithium battery. We've got the starter battery and an AGM leisure battery. I've just had to replace that as well. And then other things. This is a charge controller for the charging by alternator when the engine's running. This pump here empties the waste tank, and then over there we've got the two water pumps. The solar cabling, I've brought that in to the charge controller here by bringing it round the stern of the boat. The cables run round the back of the gas locker and go to connectors which are on the deck, and this is the holding tank for the toilet. I've recently had to fit a new vent for the tank because it was blocked and it was creating a lot of smell. It was difficult to empty. Up above here we've got the Vercrew unit, which is quite a nifty little remote monitoring device, which I fitted quite early on. Having the boat gives me remote access to the battery voltages, temperature and location of the boat. And then there's another locker on the starboard side, which I refer to as the wet locker, and that contains all of the stuff for mooring. So again, it's quite large because it extends quite a long way back. I'm getting in here the mooring warps and fenders and cleaning equipment. This is where I've fitted my new navigation equipment. You can see that I've got a 5-way connector, which is bringing the cables from up in the saloon round, and this cable actually goes aft, which I'll show you in a moment. But I've got the Raymarine smart wind transducer here connected in, and I've got the EV1 compass and attitude sensor stashed away here tidily. This is the fuel tank. Cables run aft. Some network cable with a spur here to the EV100, which is the ACU which controls the actuator for the new Autopilot. Got that mounted up nice and high out of the way where I can access it if I need to. It's got a couple of ferrite suppressors on the motor, on the tiller cable, and I've also paralleled in the old cable for the previous ST2000 tiller pilot, so I could use that if I needed to as a backup. So I've left that socket in place, and that wiring is paralleled up with the supply for the ACU. This is the socket for the new tiller pilot, and that's the unit there ready to rock and roll. This is the old socket for the ST2000 tiller pilot, which is still available to use if I need to, but I'm really hoping I don't have to use that anymore. And the silver things are connectors for the big solar panel, so when I need to, when I'm at anchor say, or when I'm in port, I can connect up the solar panel and keep the battery topped up without having to rely on shore power. The aft locker contains the gas bottles and the recycling. I found by using a 907 and a 902 bottle, I can get 2 gas bottles into that locker. I've upgraded the gas regulator to a marine version as opposed to the non-marine version which the boat came with. I've also had a gas engineer replace the rubber pipe that came with the boat with copper pipe back from this locker through into the galley. Let's go down below. So down below, what modifications have I made? Well, when I fitted the Axiom plotter, I kept the original instrument and I fitted that on the inside so that I can see the depth when we're at anchor, so the plotter doesn't have to be turned on, but I can see the depth. I've got a plotting compass which is within easy reach when we're sailing, and this is the card reader for the plotter, so that's easily accessible. Got space here to fit other things if I need to. The fridge is here, which was something that I've fitted last year. Hopefully somewhere on the screen now you can see a link to that video. That's working really well for us. Consumes quite a lot of power, but with insulation we can keep that down to a bearable amount, especially with a solar panel that's working. Inside the locker you can see I fitted a water filter. The water from the tank tasted horrible, I don't know why. I've rinsed it and flushed it. It's a clean plastic tank. Fill it with fresh water, it just always tastes terrible. So I fitted an aqua filter, which didn't really work. It made it a bit better, but still hasn't got rid of that horrible chemically taste. We've tried Puritabs, they help, but still got a horrible taste in the background. So we generally don't drink the water from the tap, and we carry fresh water with us. On the electrical panel here, inside here, I've got my AIS unit, my AIS transmitter, which is a digital Yacht iAISTX. That is connected to a digital Yacht splitter, which splits the antenna input for the VHF and for the AIS. It has to be a special type that is suitable for the AIS transmitters. Going forward into the cabin, we don't use the curtain, it just gets in the way, so that's been removed. The cushions were quite hard, they're fairly thin. If you're sleeping more than 1 or 2 nights you start to know about it. So we've got a topper which helps. That was just a normal topper that we bought, and a normal sheet, and my wife has modified those so they're the correct size for the triangular berth. So that's Molly. She's certainly not the newest or biggest yacht you'll find, but over the last few years we've gradually adapted her to suit the way we cruise. None of the changes have been particularly dramatic on their own, but together they've made the boat more comfortable, safer and much easier to handle on longer trips. One of the things I've really enjoyed is working out practical solutions to the little problems that every boat seems to have. It's been a rewarding part of owning her, and hopefully some of the ideas you've seen today might be useful if you're fitting out your own boat. If you've got any questions about any of the equipment or modifications I've shown, just leave a comment below and I'll do my best to answer them. Thanks very much for watching, and if you've enjoyed this tour, I'd really appreciate it if you'd like the video and consider subscribing to follow our future adventures aboard Molly. See you next time.